This video is to help you with your brainstorming for the unit plan outline. So if you're a 466 student, you're working on an 11-day outline, and if you're a 659 student, you're working on a 15-day outline. Really where you want to start is deciding the topic of your unit plan. So I'm going to give you an example here. I love science. So we're going to look at the science standards. So I'll pick a grade level of 4th grade. So if we go to the Ohio Science Standards here, we have the Ohio Science Standards. So 4th grade starts from the table of contents at page 106. So these are the big topics in 4th grade science: the Earth's surface, electricity, heat and matter, Earth, and living history. So I'm going to go down to the Earth's surface. The surface of Earth changes due to erosion and deposition. So we're talking about the physical changing of the Earth's surface. So that's going to be my topic. So I have my content standard. So I would type that in under my content standard, and I would include this brief explanation of why I chose this. I'm interested in science topics. This seems like a topic that would be really applicable, and I could talk about all different parts of the world which would connect with my English language learners. We'll come back to the diagram or outline in a minute. Okay, so now I have my Ohio content standard. We're going to talk about the Earth's surface, how it changes in all different parts of the world due to different science things that happen to it. So rain, ice, storms, wind, oceans, how does the Earth's surface change? So we're going to explore that together as a group. Now I need to also align to my Ohio ELP standards. So I go back, I go to our proficiency standards, and it's 4th grade, so I click on the 4th grade, 5th grade standards. Now I have my topic, so I know I need to make sure that the ELP standards I pick fit well with meeting this topic. So I've already pre-looked at these, and we're talking about intermediate students, so we're talking about level 3. So the first standard I'm going to pick is standard 9. So an English language learner can create a clear and coherent grade-appropriate speech and text with support, including model sentences, introduce an informational topic, present 1 or 2 facts about the topic, recount a short sequence of events in order, use an increasing range of temporal and other linking words, so next, because, and also, and provide a concluding statement with developing control. So that's going to be one of the standards that I expect them to meet by the end of this unit plan. So that's our first standard together. Our second standard we're going to work on is standard 5. So an English language learner can conduct research and evaluate and communicate findings to answer questions or solve problems. So a level 3 student recalls information from experience, gathers information from print and digital sources to answer a question, and identifies key information in orderly notes. So now we have our 2 ELP standards. So we know our content standard is the Earth's surface. Our 2 ELP standards, we type them out in their entirety, but the basic summary is can give a presentation using linking words with support, modeled support, and can conduct research. So by the end of this unit plan, the students have to be able to demonstrate that they understand the content, which is the Earth's surface, and that they are able to meet the ELP standards, which is presenting with those linking words and doing research. So I picked these standards because I really want it to be a research-based unit plan for learners. We'll come back to the diagram again. So we're still just brainstorming. So now we look at communicative context. How are we going to meet these 4 language situations? And how are we going to meet the culture? Well, the culture works great with the Earth's surface. We can talk about how different parts of the world are impacted and changed by the Earth's surface. So the way we live in different cultures is impacted by how the Earth's surface has come to be. So if you are from Middle Eastern countries, it's very dry, it's very windy, there's dust storms. If you're from a country in North America, especially northern North America, such as Canada, you would have to deal with blizzards and snow. If you're from Asia, you might have to deal with tropical climates or blizzards and snow. So we can really talk about how the culture is affected by how the Earth's surface is formed. So that'll be my cultural context. So we'll discuss that in this unit plan. Then reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So speaking, we already kind of have an idea. They're going to have to give a presentation. So we can outline that. But there should be other different speaking practices as well. Listening. How are we going to determine that students have developed listening skills in this unit? Writing. What are they going to be writing and reading? They'll be reading different texts about the Earth's surface. So now we've got this kind of brainstorm going, and now we need to start looking at the language situations. What different knowledge do students have to be able to do or know before we can start this unit? So you can talk about their communicative abilities beforehand and their content knowledge beforehand. Remember, this is kind of a perfect world scenario. So you can say all the students are at this level and they can do these skills so that you know what you're doing in the unit plan is applicable. This doesn't work as well with real students. You have to meet their individual needs. But for this kind of make-believe perfect world unit plan, you can really state what they can and can't do. And now we go back to our unit objectives. What will students be able to do by the end of this unit plan? So students will be able to identify different causes of changes in Earth's surface. Students will be able to present information about different physical features of the Earth's surface. So perhaps their final project is that they research, which meets our Ohio ELP standard, they research a certain landmark in the world, maybe the Sahara Desert or Victoria Falls. They research those and come to determine how they were created by different forces on the world's surface. So that's hitting our content standard and our ELP standard. And then they're going to write a presentation to their classmates about this landmark and how it came to be. So students will be able to research different landmarks and how the Earth's surface formed them, or forces of the Earth's surface formed them. And students will be able to present a coherent analysis of how this landmark came to be formed. So those are our 3 overarching unit objectives. And now we start breaking it down by the day-to-day. What are we going to do each day so that we meet the ELP standards, the content standards, and the unit objectives? And then how are we going to assess that the students have learned what we argue that they've learned? So this is kind of the brainstorming process I go through to pick my topic and to start thinking about how I'm going to meet the different language situations. So if we go back to our example, and remember this is from a New York State student, so the standards are different, and the assignment was different because it was for a class specifically on assessment. But if we look at our different diagrams, they give us a great way to see, once you've continued working on all of these different ideas, how to create these diagrams that the unit plan outline talks about. So here we have our unit objectives, and then example daily objectives. Here it breaks down what activities and assessments are going to hit each of the standards. Here it breaks down how each language situation has been addressed and assessed throughout the unit plan. And how has the content knowledge been addressed in activities and assessed? And then this aligns across the bat. So how have our unit objectives and our standards been assessed? Because you have to demonstrate that alignment for a coherent unit plan. You have to say that the standards, the objectives we set for students have both been met, and that students have been assessed and demonstrated proficiency on the standards and objectives and have received meaningful feedback that they've met the objectives and the standards. You can change the format of these diagrams if they don't seem to fit what you're trying to explain, but the information has to be housed there. So I suggest really starting with what standards you want to cover and what objectives, and then starting to brainstorm the culture and the language situations. Then start going through the map. What's the day-to-day going to look like? When are you going to do a listening activity? Maybe the students have to listen to a story about the Earth's surface and answer questions. Maybe they have to, for reading, They have to read different subjects at different stations throughout the classroom. You set up stations, and they have to gather information from those stations and create a chart that outlines all of the different information. For speaking, they're doing their presentation, but they should also practice at some point in the unit plan. So maybe after the stations activity that we just brainstormed, they set up different jigsaw moments where they explain what they learned to their classmates. There's lots of different ideas, and so I just wanted to go through the process with you to give a little information. So if you'd like to Skype and talk about a certain topic you've decided on, I'd be happy to talk with you. If you'd like me to check something, Saturday I can give you much more detailed feedback on what you've come up with. Let me know anytime if you have any questions as you're working on this.